Hey, it's that time of week again when you're hearing from Coach Goins. And again, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be on Out of Bounds, great basketball show hosted by none other than NBA Hall of Famer Mr. Ralph Sampson. And, what a tremendous athlete, what a tremendous friend. But just thank you so much for the opportunity to have a little bit of time on the show, Ralph. And what we're going to be talking about is hard work. It's kind of a two-way street, if you will, and that'll be our approach tonight. And we're really talking about basketball on the high school level tonight. And what do I really want to drive home on that is hard work, kind of a two-way street, if you will. A lot of young players don't want to stop and take a look at what their ownership is. They just always want to, put that on the coach, or, sometimes the parents want to put it on the coach. But let's a couple of points that I really want to make tonight is, what is your expectation of your coach? Have you ever thought about that as a player? Let that sink in for a moment. Have you ever thought about the expectation from your coach? As a high school coach, should that coach be, teaching your player or your student athlete basketball concepts, plays, strategies, what to do when the game is on the line, half-court sets out of timeouts, enhanced performance skills, not how to dribble a basketball, not how to make a left-hand layup or a right-hand layup, or how to shoot a free throw, because we're talking high school basketball. So if that student athlete arrives in the gym, is a 10th, 11th, or 12th grader, and coaches have to take time out of a serious practice segment in order to teach them how to make a layup, we are eroding the game. We are not enhancing the game, and that's where our segment tonight is hard work. So what we're going to challenge is, what are the fundamentals that you as a player possess? What is your level of basketball IQ? Meaning, when you show up on first day of open gym or the first day of basketball practice, you should be sound. You should be coming in. You should be working prior to. You should be able to make those layups. You should, left hand, right hand. You should be able to do the three-man weave. You should be able to understand how to dribble. You need to be able to understand, what that looks like, from a basketball player, from the expectation of your coach. Because if your coach hadn't changed from season to season, you should, and you've possibly that you played for this coach last year, why don't you know that level of expectation? Then you as a player, what is your basketball IQ? What do you think? You played last year, you come back this year. What are your strengths? Do you have 6'5" in the post, 6'6" on the wing, and all of a sudden you got a 6'3" slasher in the small forward position? So there, you summarize your teammates, and you know what you need to be able to bring to the court and to the practice. So again, hard work. Players must take ownership of the process by putting time into development. That's one of the things that I like to be able to call out, in this segment, Ralph, is, a lot of times, young players don't want to put the time in. They just want to go play. A lot of, I hear that so often is, oh, where we going to play? But how many young players stop and, really spend that time and, and working their craft, if you will? Stopping and taking a look and saying, I really need to work on, this segment. Anytime I do player development, I always challenge any one of my players, whether it's a guard or whether it's a big, is to be able to say, you need to develop 3 moves out of the 1 move. So if they're working on, and say, I'm just going to use a post player, for example. If they're in the post and we, have a guard, make that entry pass, and they're on the block, what does that look like? So they can go left, they can go right, they can drop step, then they can turn around and face the basket. So, again, 3 moves out of every move that you make. And then tools to be successful regarding these errors. And what does that happen? Player number 1 has to listen to the instruction. A lot of times, players want to arrive in a gym or want to work out, but then they don't want to take the feedback. So you have to ask the question is, what work are you doing outside of game time in order to get better? And that's what we're speaking of. Don't think that you've arrived as a player, because, you're still learning the game. Yeah, you may be a decent high school player and you may be on the elite level. But there is still work that you can do. There's, footage that you can watch. What's made successful players successful is the time and grade. I look at, Ray Allen. How many times and hours before a game would he be in the gym, working on his craft? And I know we're not NBA and we don't have that ability to go into the gym 4 hours before each game. And I'm not speaking of that, so hopefully you're not trying to take us down that path. But my challenge to you is, when you have the opportunity, when you get in the gym, most coaches will, they can set their schedule up, on Saturdays or prior to the season when a kid wants to work and that coach sees that passion. A lot of times they will make their way in order to get that gym door open, so therefore they can get in there and that kid can really home in on that skill set. Because when they don't do it, who loses? That's when most coaches realize that, when you're out here and you're not really giving the all to whatever reason, you don't want to give your all, then that's when you have to really question yourself and say, am I the player or am I giving the game what I need to give the game? And so in that whole regard, so once you go in and you've put a little bit of time in and you work very hard, how about finding somebody that you hold in high regard as it relates to basketball skill, basketball knowledge? And then here's the thing, they need to take a look at you in game time action. They need to take a look at you in the open practice, again, open practice, and that's arranged by your coach. And then get a little feedback session. Feedback is breakfast of champions. How do you as a player sit down with someone, again, that you've asked, to take a hardcore look at your skill and then be able to take that feedback and then, put an action plan together and say, this is what I'm going to work on before the season or during the season, and there's nothing wrong with it. A player can get better as time goes. And the big thing there is what you have to be able to do is be willing to take that feedback, be willing to develop that action plan, and then be willing to put that hard work into that entire process. But again, that expectation from your coach, what do you expect from him? And then what does he expect from you? A lot of times as players, that is something that you need to go make sure that you have that open line of communication with your coach to be able to go in and say, Coach, what do I need to work on prior to the season? What do I need to work on after the first couple games? And then apply that whatever which way that you need to. So, and then here's the thing. Don't dwell on the mistakes. You learn from those mistakes. You have to have a short memory in basketball. It's all about, the positive balance, the positive body language. Every shot that you take, you need to take that shot just like it's going in the bottom of the net. And if it doesn't, okay, great. The sun's going to come up. You need to hustle back down on the other end of the floor. But hard work will allow you to be able to control your emotions and be able to not worry about, what the coach is going to do if you miss the shot, not worry about if you turn the ball over. What you have to do is play your game. And then in that repetition or that time, you will be able to sit down with your coach after the game or after a couple games and say, Coach, I notice, when this happens, this is what I feel is going to come quick. Or is your coach a coach that allows you to mess up on the floor because nobody's going to play the game perfectly? There's turnovers are part of the game. Now you try to minimize those turnovers and understand is when a person just creates turnovers after turnover, the coach has to address that. But that's not what we're speaking of tonight. It's just being able to say, how do you take a negative situation and kind of put it off to the side and move forward? And that's what we mean by making sure that you are dialed in the right way and not be worried about, the quick whistle or having to play and with that frame of mind that if I make a mistake, the coach is going to pull me out with the quickness. And I've seen that in my entire basketball career, that a lot of times that happens. But as a player, and I always used to tell my players is those are things that you can't control. You just have to continue to work hard. So listen, as we start to wind this segment down on hard work, and we definitely want to thank Mr. Ralph Sampson for allowing us to be a part of such a great show. And that's Out of Bounds with Mr. Ralph Sampson. And again, as Coach Goins starts signing off, please understand that what we're saying and what we're trying to convey is that hard work. Don't underestimate the hard work. Don't underestimate the enhanced performance skills that you have to have, and don't underestimate your coach. Make sure that is a two-way street, that you're communicating at a high level so you get understanding. As we start to wrap this week's session up on hard work, this is Coach Goins, and I just definitely want to thank our gracious host, Mr. Ralph Sampson, for allowing us to be on this weekly show and just giving a weekly topic. And always remember, hard work won't hurt you. Focus on what you need to do. Communicate at a high level with your coach and make sure you guys understand each other's expectations. So until next time, this is Coach Goins, always looking for players, always looking to do great things, and always looking to give back. And we'll see you in the gym.